All right, everybody. Well, we're live. We're going to be talking about the Strangers Reboot. And for those of you that have just seen the last Slasher Movie Club on the Nightwatch Zone, after doing The Strangers a couple weeks ago, they just did The Strangers Pray at Night, which was
Mhm.
probably one of the best Dollar Tree pickups I ever picked up. So actually, at the end, I gave it three. It was tough. I wanted to go four, but four is like the top, the very
Mhm.
best. Um, so I went with three. But as far as like a
Mhm.
movie that I just happened to pick up at Dollar Tree, I
Yep.
mean that's like one of the best finds you could possibly, because I didn't know much about it when I found it. And I
Mhm.
think that might actually tie into the topic tonight, which is the Strangers reboot. The sequel really
Mm.
didn't have a lot of hype behind it, did it, when it came out?
No. No, it
It
kinda
didn't.
came out, and I hadn't even heard about it beforehand, and even when it was out, I didn't really hear much about it. I didn't watch it until, God, it was easily at least a couple years after it came out, and
Yeah,
I'd say within like the last 2 years, I started to hear a few people talk about it, a
yeah,
little bit of
yeah.
rumblings here and there, and people saying, "Man, it was
Mhm.
really good. It was really good. I can't believe it." And that's when it kind of got back on my radar as far
Yeah,
as
yeah.
me having the confidence to watch it. And then I watched it, and I think it's great.
Yeah, that was really well done. Yeah, I think some of it was, people started to find it at Dollar Tree here and there and started to review it. Um,
Yeah.
and some people didn't like it as much, but I haven't seen anyone completely hate it. Uh,
Hmm.
I think it did the things that a sequel should do. It kind of went in a different direction, changed up the setting,
Yep.
uh, and really did a good job with it too. Like the atmosphere was great. Uh,
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
the way those street lights and everything, the way they filmed that was really good.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey,
Very good.
Echo and Ginger Ninja, what is up? How's it going? Thanks, both of
Hey.
you guys. Thanks for stopping by. So, yeah, let me just start with this. This is what we know about the Strangers reboot, okay? And I was thinking a third film to finish this or a reboot, but actually rewatching this film last night, I was like, man, the Strangers really got the crap kicked out of them.
Yeah, they did.
There wouldn't have been much left for a third movie, so I've kind of had to change my mind on that. But in the movies they do anything, right? I mean,
That's right.
they let's there was a lot of blood loss in this movie and the Pray at Night. I mean, on both
Mhm.
sides. So you of course we're stretching believability as it is.
Right.
But that was my thing. I was thinking, well, now when we get to the third film, let's see them take it in a different direction. And like one of my favorite YouTubers, Dr. Gangrene, he always talks about that even with old movies like The Fly, The Curse of the
Mhm.
Fly back in the 60s.
Mhm.
They weren't 100% successful, but the third one is very, very different than the first two because you'd already
Right.
seen the same thing twice.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, are we going to see them like unmasked, or like if they lose somebody, what's the process of him recruiting somebody? How does
Mhm.
do you have to brainwash someone into doing this? I guess probably
Mm.
would.
Mm.
And Horrorcat Dad, how are you? Thanks for
Hey.
joining us. Appreciate it. So yeah, so here's what we know about the reboot. Uh, all three films are apparently done. They filmed them back to back, just like
Mhm.
Netflix with the Fear trilogy. It's
Yep.
by Rennie Harlan.
Yes.
It stars now. As far as the actresses go, I don't recognize any of the names. I know some people know them from TV shows.
Mhm.
Uh, and that is a car. That is a car alarm going off. If you can hear that, but Madeline Pesh and
Mhm.
Raquel Shenton play sisters.
Yep.
So I believe one of them is going to be married, uh, and one of them is going to be. If you go on IMDb, it's Strangers Chapter 1 is what we're going to see. So they
Mhm.
already have entries for Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, and one of these two is in all three. So you kind of it's a little bit of a, a
Yeah, it kinda lets you
spoiler
know.
there, but apparently there's going to be some other characters. Uh, Now Richard Brake is playing a character named Sheriff Rodder, which is I don't know. I think with casting Richard Brake, there's a he's probably just going to be a sheriff, but there's always a chance that he might be not what he seems. You never know,
That's right.
you
You're
know.
right.
Uh,
Yep.
which would be something different. And so the first film is going to be coming out 2024. Whether it's going to be exclusive in the theaters or not, nobody knows. And then
Hmm.
apparently, since the second two are finished, I mean, they could come out in pretty quick succession, like all three within a 2 year period. So that's kind
Yeah.
of what we're looking at. So I just thought, like, maybe we could talk about like the best possible scenario and then the worst
Yeah.
possible scenario with a new trilogy. Which one do you want to do first? Since you're
Well,
the
I guess best possible scenario maybe. I mean, I think first of all, Rennie Harlan, I think he's a really talented filmmaker.
Mhm.
Obviously, Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah.
4, Die Hard 2.
Mhm.
So
A lot of
he
sequels.
yeah, a lot of yes, good
Yeah,
point. So he can come in and do a good sequel. He's
yeah,
shown the talent for
yeah,
that. Um, Best case scenario is that we get invested in these new characters enough to follow, like you said, the one that kind of gets through, more than one film. I'm hoping that it's a stranger's movie, but yet it's bringing something very interesting to the table. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
now you're kind of doing away with these other two films that were both really good for different reasons,
Mhm.
So the best case scenario is that this film, and you would think that the studios would be kind of thinking of it this way. The best case scenario is that these new films bring something very interesting to the lore of the strangers. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
That's the best case scenario. I've got a flip side of that comment for the worst case scenario, but I'll get to that when we
Okay, yeah,
get to
yeah,
worst
yeah,
case.
yeah. Oh, and real quick, hey, Russell, yeah, they're rebooting The Strangers. Uh,
Yes.
and then Rainbow Fright's just stopping by for a moment. Uh,
Hey.
if you're still here, she said she saw the first one. Have you seen Strangers Pray at Night, Rainbow Fright? Just curious.
Hmm.
Oh, hey, Babang. Babang is here. I think it's early in the morning in the Philippines. Hello.
Hey.
And thanks for stopping by. Uh, yeah. And then as far as like, yeah, I was going to ask you about Rennie Harlan, and that's pretty much the way I feel. Like, pretty, you could do a lot worse. So
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
knows to push
He's
all the buttons.
talented.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, he's talented. He's been in the big time. I mean, Die Hard too is when that look, Die Hard was hugely
Yeah.
popular back then. So to
Mhm.
do the sequel to Die Hard was a big thing,
Yeah.
and he did a great job. Nightmare franchise as well. That was a big thing. So he can handle the pressure. Um, I'm just well, once we get into the worst case scenario, I'm just curious what choices are going to be made.
Right.
That's the big thing,
Right.
because
Right.
he's
And
the director. He's not the one that's totally
right. Yeah.
crafting everything that we're gonna see.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, and also Mayan is here. Hello, Mayan. Thanks for stopping
Hey,
by.
man.
Yeah. So, yeah. Now here's the thing. I mean, the Strangers isn't that old, and
Yeah.
I mean, if you the best that I mean, it's going to be a Strangers movie. Does that mean it has to have all the same
Mhm.
lines? There's already a clip out. I forgot to
Yeah.
mention that. And guess what they're saying? Guess whose name comes up in the clip is Tamara Home. so,
Mhm.
so we're doing that
Yep.
again. So, like, how? In other words, like, how if you walk out of the theater, how like pumped could you possibly be, or are you just going to be relieved to get the first one over to get the second one? Like, it can be well crafted, but
Right.
how new could it be? That's my thing. Like, I think the best
Right,
case
right.
made film that seems kind of familiar. If it's not just by the definition, it can't be that original. You know,
Mm.
so
Yeah. I agree, and that to me is the flip side of it all, is that because that first film is basically a retelling of the first Strangers movie.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, there'll be obviously some differences, but based upon characters, but it's basically from what Rennie Harlan has said, from what I've read, unless I misread, but he basically said, it's kind of a retelling of the original film. And like you said, the original film isn't that old, you
right,
know.
exactly.
So that's when you told me about this conversation, that was the first thing that popped into my mind as far as my reservations about this
Mhm.
trilogy. I mean, I'm all for it. If it works out great, I'm gonna be super happy, and I think it's a great universe to occupy and move into. But again, it's not an old movie, the original. And
Yeah.
if this first film is basically a retelling of that original movie, for me, who loves that original film, what is it going to bring to the table?
Right, right, right.
Like you said,
Mhm.
what's going to get me excited about it? And I'm hoping that's why, and I was alluding to it earlier, I'm hoping that the studios and everyone involved and Rennie have that in mind as far as to say, look, we got to bring some interesting angles to this for those people that are fans of the original. I mean, that has to be a part of the process, right?
Right, 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 right. And it has gotta be something like, I don't know, like if they have 4 strangers, people are gonna be like, "Oh, what's the big difference?" It's kinda like with The Exorcist
Yeah.
Believer, and they're like, "Oh, there was 2 girls. What's the big deal?" Like, I don't know
Right,
what they could
right.
do that's different, but also not piss people off at the same time, because at the
Yes.
end, I mean, it's a Strangers movie. So that when that so okay, so that'll bring us to the second movie. So I think the second film is gonna have to do kind of what Strangers Pray at Night did, change up some things. Uh,
Mhm.
like the setting, which I thought the setting of this film was great. Like a campground is just such a great idea, and the fact that they're there but they
Mhm.
don't know the place, you know. And of course, they
Yeah.
make some of the
Yeah.
mistakes that people make. They leave their phones behind, but they don't know the
Mhm.
area, the place. So that was very clever.
Mhm.
So the second film's going to have to do something along those lines and do it
Mhm. Yep.
well. And they're also well, I guess they'll have the advantage of, since they're already filmed, unlike what happened with Pray at Night, they're going to be able to capitalize on the momentum of the first one, hopefully.
Right.
And if it
Yeah.
does well, it's going to also be in the
Yeah.
theaters. And then that brings us to a third film, which they're hinting at, like maybe like the masks come off or something like that.
Mhm.
But then, I mean, that could be like a great film, but if again, if you go in a crazy direction,
Yeah.
not everybody might be not be on board. So I
That's
don't know.
true.
That to me, that's like the best scenario, that everything gets released like one, according to schedule. The first film is like a competent retelling that
Mhm.
gets people curious. The second one changes things up, and the third one does something kind of different.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully being that, Rennie being a very, he's a visually competent and he's a stunning director in that sense. He, like I said, I know I keep going back to Nightmare 4 and stuff like that, but he did some really good stuff, especially
Mhm.
in the dreamscape.
Yeah, yeah.
And even Bob Shea and others talked about how they were just so impressed with what he did. And so he's got the skill to bring a very interesting style to the film. So I think, in other words, I think that's an advantage because all three films will have that. There'll be that through line. So hopefully that works in its favor as it should. And with the cast, a continuing story, which I think that was the one thing about Pray at Night when it first came out that at first was an obstacle for me because I was thinking, well, it's not the same people, which makes sense as far as the
Yeah,
world of the movie,
right.
what's happening in these films, but you just don't have that connection, right? Um, so with these movies, this trilogy, I think that'll be an advantage for it, is that we're going to be kind of following a
Mhm.
continuing story and building momentum, like you said.
Yeah,
So hopefully it all works out, man. I'm always, whenever horror movies come out, and especially if it's a franchise or if it's something that's trying to be built into something big, like this, I'm always hopeful for it because I think a win for this is a win for horror, which hopefully opens the doors for other possible great films. So I'm very hopeful that it'll be good, but it is a curious thing. We'll see.
yeah.
We'll
And
see.
it seems like, you've got 2 sisters. So in the original Strangers, it was just a couple, and then at the end, the friend comes, one of those deals like kinda like the
That's right.
cop in, Strangers Pray at Night. I'm here, whack, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Boom.
But
You're gone. No, you're not.
yeah, I think the fact the fact that they have two sisters and a lot of other young people in the cast. Now, obviously, three of them are going to be playing the strangers, but there's quite a few more, and the sheriff, and there's
Mhm,
like a paramedic in the cast. So if they build
mhm.
like a bigger world, there's more characters to go into the second and third film, um,
Yeah.
potentially. So that'll be good. So that's I think that was pretty wise. Because like you said, you
Yeah.
did get invested in the first film, and then it's like, oh, here comes the second film. I kind of see why some people
Yeah.
were skeptical, and it took a little while to build it up. But they did a
Yeah,
good job.
yeah, I
I
mean,
like all the characters in the second film. So
yeah, yeah, the second film was good in spite of those obstacles. I mean, like, if they had done a second movie and Liv Tyler obviously was in it,
mhm.
and then, kinda continued her tragedy and dealing with this situation, I would have definitely been on board right from the
Yeah,
get-go because I was
yeah.
already invested in her.
I think the plan was she was going to be in the beginning of it, but that didn't happen.
Oh,
But it was still,
yeah,
it's
that
still,
is too bad.
still. I did like the family a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the second film. So that's kind of like the best thing, I
agreed.
guess. The best case overall. If
Mhm.
everything, but there's a lot
I
of
agree.
parts in this machine that have to work. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
yes,
I'm hoping for the best. I mean, you look at like Pearl and X. You look at how excited people are for Maxine. It could work. You know,
it could,
and the
you
fear,
know
the fear. I didn't see any of the Fear Street movies on Netflix, but that was
they're
a pretty
actually pretty
bold.
good.
That's what I heard. That was a pretty bold thing
Mhm.
they did. C-
Yeah.
creating their own trilogy and releasing it like that. So, uh,
Mhm.
let's see. Glenn Howerton in The Strangers. That would be cool. Says Ninja.
Mm.
Nice to
Yep.
see you for the first time. Yeah, Russell. I've done this a few times before here and there. I'm trying to, get my game on and have like a more regular schedule. But so that brings us to that brings us to like the worst case. So I I the first thing I think they could do wrong is if they make a Strangers movie that doesn't feel like a Strangers movie. But I but if they did that, it
Yes.
would set up the second and third one. So I don't know. Hopefully they're not going to do that. I mean, or it just could be like a bland retelling of the same story. What do you think about like the worst case scenario for the first film?
Well, I think if it is just super bland and it's just hitting basically the same beats, I mean, obviously, like you said, it's sisters, it's not the couple, but we know what's going on. And so if it is
Mhm.
like very bland and cookie cutter, I think it could be, whew, that could be bad news, especially being the fact that this was planned as a trilogy, shot as a trilogy, and so forth. And that could be really, really bad. I'm hoping it's not that. You would think it wouldn't be, but we've been proven wrong many times in the past,
Yeah.
whether it's the Psycho remake or, it's like we've seen these things happen before. So the possibilities are there. I think the other thing too is that if the movie, like you said, if it doesn't feel like a stranger's movie, and I'm thinking, if it tries to do things that take you more out of it. Like if it starts
Right.
to get to like Terrifier level of violence, then I'm just gonna kind of be like, well, I could just watch Terrifier for that. This to me, The Strangers was always kind of rooted in reality
Right. Right.
to a degree. It
Mhm.
felt like something that could happen. Like if I look outside of my window right now, there could be one of the strangers there that's just
Yeah.
ready to just kill because I'm home.
Right. Well,
And that's
I just saw.
yeah.
I was just looking on Instagram. It's the anniversary of the day that those four college students got stabbed to death.
Oh,
So
wow.
remember that?
Yeah,
It was
yes.
in Idaho
Mhm.
somewhere. So yeah, this stuff like happens. I don't know about
It
the
does.
the. I think they basically took the idea for the strangers on. It's just like the basic ideas. They found some murdered people in a cabin. They don't. I don't think they have any idea that anybody was wearing masks and hoods or anything like that. So it's
Right.
you know, but obviously these kind of home invasions happen.
Yeah, they do, man.
So
And
that's
that's what's really, really scary.
Yeah, yeah, but if they try to go, like, too excessive, I think that won't work. I don't think that'll work.
Yep.
Uh,
Mhm.
if they try to do, like a second the second Black Christmas remake and put some
Mm.
messaging in there,
Yeah.
that could blow up, but, I mean,
Yep.
hopefully or the audience could react, as if they did that even when they didn't, because when you think about it, when you start fighting back, you are empowered. You're starting to empower yourselves, but,
Mhm.
sometimes the audience are like, "Oh, another one of these movies again," you know?
That's right. That's right. I can only hope
"Oh"
that it won't go that way.
yeah, I don't think "Oh, another 5'10" female kicking everyone's butt. That's
Yeah,
not real."
right.
Well, guess what? Movies aren't realistic, buddy.
Right? I know. Movies have always been make believe.
Matt Damon is short too. It's just, like, let's but anyway,
Yeah.
so hopefully people give it a chance.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think they're gonna do anything insanely, like, off, the path they should go down. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and then, like, uh but here's the thing, if the first film or the first and the second film don't do that well, then what do they do with the third one? As far as
Right.
releasing, as far as,
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, it's gonna be can you get people back to reshoot things? Probably
Mhm.
not. Maybe just re-edit some things, change some things, and then it goes to right to streaming, and it kind of peters,
Dies a slow
dies with a
death.
whimper. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So
No.
it's-
I do hope it's successful. I have a feeling that it's going to be at least decent.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I do have a feeling it's gonna at least be decent. And, they definitely putting their money where their mouth is, man. When you got it planned out and it's already shot and, you're
mhm,
going down that road, they've got a lot of confidence in it. That doesn't mean it's gonna be great,
right.
um, or even good, but it does have a lot of things going for it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And I'm thinking, they're probably going to be about 90 to 100 minutes each.
Mhm.
I don't think you need to be, much longer than that. Um,
Right.
right. Yeah. I know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually, yeah, I was actually like, now that I've rewatched it, watched your stream and read even more about it just today, I've kind of
Mhm.
changed my mind and I'm a little more excited about it. Whereas before I was
Mhm.
like, almost felt like it was the idea was like disrespecting Pray at Night which actually now, to be honest, I think more people might actually go back and watch it. They might go find it,
Yeah, I think so
you know.
too. I think it's gonna, shed some light on those older movies, which I think
Mhm.
both of them were underappreciated, underrated. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
they're both really good horror films, and especially modern films of that style. I think
right.
they definitely deserve more light.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's kind of, I mean, where I'm at with it, like, we'll have to wait and see. And it's 2024, so I imagine it's gonna be in the front half. So there could
I would
actually
think so.
we could have 2 films in 2024, you know? If the first one does well, the
Yeah,
second one
it
might
could.
be a Halloween release or around there,
Hmm.
So that would be
Yeah,
definitely
it
pretty
could
cool.
be like a X and Pearl situation.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's what I'm hoping for. So let's see,
me
let me
too.
see. Night is okay. Oh, Professor Macabro, how are you? I'm sorry, this is a little awkward, guys. I have to look at a different
Hey.
device for comments. The dumbass studios are going to oversaturate the market like they did with superhero movies. Well, well, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, there's so many horror movies out there, but as far as big studio ones, yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
right, exactly. I mean, there's of course there's been other films similar to The Stranger, so I hope they don't like go too
Yes.
into it and sort of dilute this before it even gets to the third film. Um,
Mhm.
Ginger says there's always that fear, but we can only hope that they learn from them. Yeah, my brother actually saw the Marvels
Yeah.
movie. He said he didn't
Uh-huh.
hate it. He didn't hate it. That's what he said.
I've heard most people that I listen to, as far as in the media, they didn't
Mhm.
hate it either, but
Yeah.
you know how it is. We live in a time where some people, they've just got blinders on. If a movie isn't a masterpiece, then it's the worst thing ever created. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. 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 Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Which is too bad.
Well, anyway, yeah, no, listen, I appreciate you coming on. I just wanted to like kind of thrash this out
Yeah.
a little bit. It's funny because I like actually kind of changed my mind.
But that's a good thing. That's what's
Covered.
gr
I don't know if
that's what's great about talking movies.
yeah, I made the cover like no sequel for you, but
Now you're
again,
like,
this
"Maybe?"
yeah, maybe. Oh, like a sequel would have been a strange thing now that I think about it, but doable. But this is
Yep.
also doable. A new trilogy. So
Yeah,
all right, yeah, Russell. Russell's been watching movies a long time. That's awesome, Russell.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Professor in the house. Yeah. Loki was really good, says Professor, but he's a huge mark for anything time travelish. Yep. Yep.
Mm,
Yeah. I haven't seen any of those. Yeah.
me neither.
Um, yeah. The series, I kind of just, there's so much out there.
Yeah.
I've not gone into the series and, uh,
Mhm.
I'm always catching up on my older horror movies, my classic movies, and thinking about the channel. But yeah, I got some ideas. So hopefully, we'll have you back on again eventually. I know you're busy, but
Yeah, no, this was fun, man. Well, you know me, I love talking this stuff anyways, and plus, when you at first told me about it, I was like, "Yeah, that's a great little conversation to have because it's relevant, and it's
right.
definitely something that's crossed my mind,"
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even having this conversation, it's made me feel more positive for it as well,
Yeah.
because there are possibilities for it to be really, really interesting and good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, I appreciate everybody coming out. And I will catch you guys next time. I'll see you. You didn't announce what you have going on for next Monday, did you? Yet?
No, not yet. No. We've got a couple things that we're kind of flipping the coin on. So
Okay. All
hopefully it'll
right.
be something that people really really be happy to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I always
Yeah.
look forward to that. The announcement every
Yes.
week. Okay.
We love it. We appreciate it too, man.
All right. Well, again, thanks for having, and I'll catch everyone next time.
See you guys later.
Thanks. Thanks a lot for coming.